Having these two enjoyers of life factions clashing in the desert seems like a nice juxtaposition. Today, Coop's going to be taking the Wood Elves against Nurgle, of course. Let's take a look at the builds here. For the Wood Elves side, Sisters of Twilight on their dragon. Going to be quite strong. Not the best armor in the world, but magic poison damage. And of course, very strong missile attacks. One of the best hybrid missile monsters in the game, to be honest. Also, of course, physical resistance, not going to be great against the magic damage of Nurgle, but this Nurgle player is smart in that they brought just like a crap load of shielded units. There's, what, 4 or 5 shielded marauders up front. Looks like 4 shielded marauders, maybe. Yeah, even 5. No, 4 marauders, 4 warriors of Nurgle, all shielded. Knights of Nurgle also recently got a cost reduction. Heavily armored and shielded as well, so all of this to try and resist some of that missile fire, sort of foregoing a lot of the demons. Festus leading the way. You don't see him as often anymore, but he is still reasonably decent in a few situations, as long as he can refrain from getting sniped by the sisters here. Got some Furies up in the air to contest missiles and give some extra mobility. For the Wood Elves, of course, Dryads as a front line will trade great against demons. They'll trade decently against Nurgle Marauders too, but will definitely struggle against the Warriors. Deepwood Scouts, Shiver Shards, Starfire Shafts, and some Glade Riders in the back with the Wild Hunters of Colonels as well. Lady Ariel is here as a caster. Rock and Soul Stealer, she's got her Bound Berry Wine and Apotheosis both for healing. Dwellers Below also for damage output. But let's get in close and watch as the Dryads meet with the infected Marauders here in the open field. And the Furies just mass rush Sisters in the Sky. This is definitely overkill. You probably only need to realistically run in with like 1 or 2. You can see how many of these Furies are not in quote-unquote base contact. They're not able to actually do attack animations, but right now they are doing quite a bit of damage. That magic damage and high weapon strength does mean they'll actually hit the Sisters reasonably hard, but of course, again, over-blobbing like that's going to make them a very vulnerable target to Soul Stealer. Another Fury drops here on some Deepwood Scouts and immediately gets charged out by the Glade Riders there, so pretty decent stuff, but Sisters still taking quite a bit of damage despite that Soul Stealer. These Furies are still an imminent threat. There's no Tempest from Ariel here to help resist that, and I would definitely recommend Tempest. You know, I think the Herald on Rotfly is not actually a completely terrible idea here to give you some kind of flying single entity with some debuffs and such. You could potentially catch Ariel or other flying Wood Elf units with them, and just in general support those Furies up in the sky. But here, the slower Nurgle cavalry, even though they are quite tanky and strong, they are definitely not fast enough to get away from these fast Wood Elf cavalry. Wild Hunters get in there with their anti-large bonus and actually get some really nice damage done, since they don't eat the charge as those Nurgle Knights were trying to get away from. Even like the Blade Riders, they're not going to be able to get away from. They'll definitely beat them, but a little bit of Dwellers here. Those Knights of Nurgle are able to mostly avoid that, and the Glade Riders end up getting routed off regardless. Looks like the Sisters of Twilight did get some healing there from Ariel, but the Dryads do run out of steam relatively quickly. Like I said, they trade reasonably well against Marauders, but once Chaos Warriors come through, they're definitely going to lose out, and these Deepwood Scouts with nothing to protect them. The Nurgle Knights, nice fleshy abundance to heal them back up. Still 58 unit models with a lot of HP damage done. That's going to be a very efficient heal on a multi-model unit. They'll be able to come in and crush those Deepwood Scouts. Meanwhile, it looks like the Sisters Hardland are going to go with Ariel 2v1 and try and take out Festus here, but it looks like Ariel actually getting distracted fighting some of the other stuff. That's just fine, as long as the dragon can have some kind of anvil to cycle charge with. It should be able to deal just fine with a lot of these warriors and other heavily armored units for Nurgle into the late game, but balance of power still slightly in Nurgle's favor right now. Wild Hunters again sort of seeking out the Chaos Knights directly before while the Chaos Knights are distracted, before they can really get a decisive engagement and turn things around against the Wild Hunters. Here, with these Knights, the Warriors supporting, might not go great for the Wild Hunters, but they still are farming quite a bit of value, just getting free damage, more or less. That slow speed, man, only 65 on the Knights. They're some of the slowest heavy cavalry in the game, and definitely pay for that in this particular matchup. especially. But Sisters of Twilight there doing some pretty good damage, finishing off the last couple of Furies, trying to chase... We're trying to chase the Sisters, but yeah, doing just fine there. A little bit of a Plague Breath from Festus, who has to pop the healing elixir... using the healing elixirs. Not really a lot of multi-model units to drain out right now with the Harbinger of Pestilence, so might as well just keep those healing elixirs up, keep these Marauders and Warriors, try and sustain them through this latter part of the game here. These other Knights of Nurgle still hanging around. Didn't quite get finished off by the Wood Elf Cavalry earlier, but Wood Elf Cavalry also coming back. Got a few Glade Riders coming back from route here, can come back in, start to clean up perhaps any of these routed like Marauders and stuff. The Wild Hunters still just hunting, not allowing those Chaos Knights to get away. Looks like the dragons are potentially lining up for a breath attack as well. Very nicely done. Looks like, no, actually slightly mistargeted, which is unfortunate. Didn't go into the blob like Koops was wanting. Sometimes the dragons target where they think the center mass of the unit is, which can end up just being on the ground sometimes. Unfortunate. That would have been a really nice blob to try and get a breath into. But still plenty of ammunition left. Looks like they're going to switch to the anti-infantry poison damage shot and just try and blast, point blank into this blob here. It's going to do a lot of damage. They'll be able to kill quite a few unit models. As long as Ariel is alive and holds her leadership together, continue to get some great value there. Maybe do a couple cycle charges, utilize those breath attacks. Meanwhile, the Wild Hunters shattering that unit of Knights, hunting them down to a single rider, are going to try and seek out and hunt down this last unit of Chaos Knights here. The Nurgle mobility shutdown should be able to help the dragon cycle charge here. Not that the Knights could really catch the dragon on the ground. I mean, I guess if the dragon's exhausted, its ground speed might be slow enough. When it's poisoned, it'll get caught, but forcing a nice little Soul Stealer blob here. The Chaos Knights actually don't even get hit by it, which is unfortunate, but it's still enough to self-heal Ariel a little bit and dish out some damage at the same time. That breath attack lands much better. Does quite a bit of damage to those Warriors of Nurgle. They're still getting that healing elixir, but anytime you can detonate unit models, it's going to be a great benefit for sure. And, of course, these Nurgle Warriors also not immune to psychology. They will get terror routed by the dragon if it chooses to charge down while they are low on leadership. Like, we got some Dryads coming back in here as well, so yeah, things are looking okay. Considering, at this point, Koops, I mean, balance of power is against him, but unless he blunders the Sisters of Twilight, they should be able to kill most things left, and then the Wild Hunters can kind of support against other more threatening targets, like finishing off, tattered units, trying to fight these Knights. Another healing elixir, fleshy abundance on them. Only 13 models alive, though, so they could end up getting a little bit of overhealing. Looks like maybe not quite, but still just generally feeling the pain at this point. But nice positioning from Nurgle, and the Wild Hunters kind of find themselves trapped in between the Knights and a bunch of Warriors. Not the best situation. They don't have a great avenue of escape, but Apotheosis should help them sustain. Perhaps they can find a lane to try and get out of this, or just route the Knights. That also works. Last breath attack also goes off as Ariel continues to tank here, providing a nice single entity anvil for the Sisters to hammer in with their missiles, and of course manually cycle charging with the dragon. Also going to be quite effective. Wild Hunters come in for a key rear charge as well, and it's going to be terror routes all around for the Warriors of Nurgle. Honors also get a little bit of the overcharge there, and suddenly Festus is at extreme danger of getting sniped. I mean, Festus is definitely not the best combatant in the world up against the Sisters, all juiced up. I mean, they're not even juiced up, but just even as they are, definitely strong enough to kill him in a big hurry. Takes a few huge hits, already at his healing cap anyway, so it's not like he can sustain through this damage anymore. He shatters, and that is going to be pretty much game for Nurgle. I mean, these other Warriors might try and fight a little bit longer here because their leadership is not completely terrible, but at this point things are pretty much hopeless, especially given the Sisters still have some ammunition left. All it's going to take, especially since the Warriors are all kind of isolated here, is charge with the Hunters and the Sisters from the same time from multiple directions. Even Ariel causes terror, so in A strange case that the sisters somehow aren't able to provide the terror. Even aerial, I think, would be enough with the Wild Hunters right now to finish things off. So we'll fast forward a little bit through this end. Sisters are going to use up the last of their ammunition. Wild Hunters and aerial charging out the last few units there. And then the sisters inevitably should drop down. They might not even need to. We'll see. Army losses might trigger for Nurgle, or they do. But there you go. Very swiftly, the Nurgle forces will shatter. And there it is. Victory for the Wood Elves. Decent matchup for the Wood Elves. Nurgle tends to struggle a bit in land battles. I don't know. Maybe I would be curious to try this matchup out for myself now that, like, Soul Grinders are much cheaper. Nurgle Knights are cheaper. Those two units, I don't know. The Soul Grinders could be good here, actually, with their sort of mortar attack, if you will. Supported by maybe some other mobile-ish units. I don't know. I have to kind of theory craft it a little bit and see, but definitely this massive shield seems like the right idea on paper. Just in practice, I don't know that Festus is necessarily the bestest to support this anymore. When we can kind of look after the fact at some different Nurgle Lords and see, but definitely the sisters carrying some huge value there. I love the pick of Ariel in this matchup too. Her magic kit is really nice to have and just generally supports this army pretty well. Wild Hunters and Chronos do a great job hunting Chaos Knights, while the Glade Riders end up eating a lot of the damage from them, which is kind of what you would want. Both the Nurgle Knights underperform. I like them on paper, but in practice, they just, I feel like, are not very good. The Nurgle Warriors, on the other hand, are fantastic here, and the Marauders are just okay. They're all right. So here, for Nurgle, ultimately, I'd probably cut the Knights. Maybe you take one unit, but, yeah, even they don't even trade necessarily great against, like, regular Wild Riders because of the speed difference, and, I mean, even if you do get a clean charge, it seems like they don't trade great for their cost. I'd probably cut these guys and take the Marauder Horsemen in their place. They have shields, they have a missile attack, speed. Not the best offensive stats, but that's okay. And yeah, I'd probably cut this guy and take the Nurgle Herald. We take a look here. So I am by no means a Nurgle expert, but I just wanted to compare the cost of Festus is pretty cheap. So I'd imagine that with mount, the Herald is going to be more expensive and also is quite vulnerable to getting sniped in many ways, but let's see here. Probably Miasma of Pestilence, Stream of Corruption, or maybe just Stream of Corruption and Fleshy Abundance. Yeah, so I mean, he's pretty cheap. Under 2,000 is pretty solid. This guy, if you were to come in here with a similar kit, is going to cost more just because of the mount, but again, it does give you the option to take him flying. He also has this little heal here, so he gets pretty expensive. You kit him out decently, but I mean, you could always like cut Arcane Conduit. Probably want to keep Children of Nurgle and Locust of Fecundities. Something like that would be a pretty reasonable kit. It is more expensive. You can probably just take one less Fury, then take this guy up in the sky. But, I mean, he has decent enough combat stats that he can kind of hang with the dragon. Magic damage also to cut through the physical resistance. Slowish HP. With the Furies supporting, though, trade pretty well against the dragon. They're going to be getting hits on it. He can get hits on it at the same time. You could even, if you really wanted to get crazy, just completely kit one of these guys down and take him in there also as a second flying single entity. 1350 gets you an okay flying single entity. It's, you know, it is pretty expensive for what you get, honestly. But at the same time, you can also take this Locust of Virulence, give a little melee attack buff for those units in the sky so you can get some burst damage on the sisters. And from here, what can you take? 4 Furies. And then I would definitely go with the 4 Warriors, maybe even 5 Warriors, and then just fill out the rest with Marauders. Something like this. Have to cut 1 Marauder for a Nurgling. I don't know. I have no idea if this would even work at all, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is this completely brain-dead multi-shield with flying unit build? Would that just be too risky? Would it work at all? Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.